Society for this standing yoga class. What you'll need for this practice is a yoga mat, a sturdy chair, a folded blanket, 2 yoga blocks if you have them at home, and try to bring a water bottle to stay hydrated during your practice. And we'll begin at the top of our yoga mat. You can come to the top of your yoga mat with your feet shoulder width apart, your arms relaxed by your sides, palms facing forward. Lengthen the spine, gentle bend in the knees. I'll be standing in the front of the mat just so I can guide you, but you can stay where you are. And we'll close our eyes for a short body scan. Relax the body and come to your natural breath. Notice as the air flows in and out through the nostrils. Bring your attention to your toes as we scan all the way up from the toes to the crown of the head. Notice the toes, your feet and ankles. Notice any sensations without any judgment, just being present. Notice the legs, the lower legs and upper legs. Notice the hips, the glutes. Notice the lower back, middle back and upper back. Notice the whole spine. Notice your abdomen. Feel the breath moving through the belly. Let go of any tension. We'll continue to scan out to the chest. Notice the chest, the collarbone. Notice the shoulders, the arms, hands, the fingers. Notice any sensations in the hands. We'll move up to the neck, the jaw, and all of the muscles of the face, all the way up to the crown of the head. Breathe in. And on your exhale, let go of your body scan. You can come back to your natural breath. And notice how you feel, practicing a little check-in at the beginning and at the very end of your practice. To notice how you feel, to bring mindfulness to your practice and your day. Notice if there's any subtle shifts from the beginning to the end of your yoga class. Now let that go. When you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. And we'll warm up the neck. You can slowly send your chin to your chest. Inhale back to center. You can send your chin up towards the sky and come back to center. We'll take a few rounds like this, moving and breathing. And then we'll tilt our head from side to side mindfully. Breathing in on the way up, lengthening the whole spine, and exhaling as we tilt the head. Good. We'll turn our head to one side, staying in a pain-free range of motion. Inhaling back to center and to the opposite side. Move and breathe. Next, we'll move our attention to our wrists. You can make some gentle circles, maybe 3 circles to one side and 3 circles to the other. Take your time. Next, we'll send our palms facing forward for a gentle fist. Spread the fingers wide. Inhale. Exhale, gentle fist. We'll do a few more rounds just to warm up the fingers and the hands. This helps with stiffness, lubricates the joints. Next, we'll release the arms by our sides, and we'll bring our arms into a T shape. So reach your arms up to shoulder height. Bend the knees a little bit. Breathe in, lengthen the spine. On your exhale, we're gently going to turn our bodies without turning our lower body for a gentle twist. If it doesn't feel good for the arms, you can take your cactus arms or relax your arms by your sides. Come back to center. Lift the arms if you take this option. Lift from the feet, the whole spine. And exhale to take a twist to the other side. Listen to your body. We'll do this one more time on each side, moving and breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. And come back to center. We'll take standing side bends. You don't need a chair, but I like to use one just for support. I forgot where my chair was. Okay. Placing the chair on your yoga mat. Bend into your knees, lengthen the spine, inhale your arm overhead, and exhale to use the support of your chair, bending your opposite elbow slowly for a side bend, keeping your head in line with your spine. Breathe in. Exhale, side bend. Inhale to come back to center. And I'm just going to show you the other side without the chair. So you can send your hands to your hips if you'd like. Relax your arms by your sides. Inhale the opposite arm up. And exhale over for a side bend. Breathe in. Breathe out. Take your time. Inhale. Exhale. Come back to center. We'll do this one more time on each side, moving and breathing. You should feel a nice stretch in the side body. Release the arms, back down. We'll take sun salutations without our hands. So this is a nice option if you're living with arthritis in your hands or your wrists. You don't need your chair. I'm just going to move it over. You can come to the top of your mat. Find mountain pose, palms facing forward. Your head is parallel to the earth. Breathe in. And exhale, hands to heart. Soften the knees. Inhale the arms overhead. And exhale to fold mindfully over the legs. Bend your knees as much as you'd like. Release your head. Press into your feet. Inhale, lift halfway, hands to shins, gazing down in front of your yoga mat. And then exhale to fold. It doesn't matter if your hands are on the body or on your yoga mat. Just relax your head and bend your knees as much as you'd like. We're releasing the spine and stretching the back of the legs. Press through the feet with a long spine to come all the way back up. And exhale, hands to heart center. We'll do this again. I'm going to face you for this cycle. We'll practice just with our breath cues so you can follow along. Inhale. And exhale, hands to heart. Breathe in, reach the arms up. And exhale to fold over the legs. Bend your knees. Release the head. Inhale, halfway lift. Hands to shins lightly. Lift your gaze in front of you. And exhale to fold. Keep bending the knees as much as you'd like. This should feel good. Press into your feet. Lift all the way up. And exhale. Palms in front of the heart. Come back to mountain. Take a few breaths here. You can close your eyes if that feels good. It's a good way to pause and connect to our breath. Next, we'll practice a warrior series. We'll be using a chair for support. Take your chair and place it to the top of your yoga mat. Make sure that you have at least 2 feet on your yoga mat. I'm going to remove the blocks for now, but we might use them, so let's keep them close by. Coming to the top of your yoga mat, bring your hands to the top of your seat. Inhale and exhale. We're going to step our left foot back behind us, our legs on 2 separate tracks. Bend into your front knee, and you can change how much space you have between your legs, so you can set your heel down towards the floor. The closer that your legs are together, the easier it will be to send your heel down to the floor. But if it doesn't touch the floor, that's perfectly fine. So just listen to your body. Bend into that front knee. Warrior 1. You have the option to keep your hands on your chair, or slowly you can lift one arm up. Notice your balance. Engage belly to spine. You could lift 2 arms up. For warrior 1. We're going to hold it for a few mindful breaths, building strength, endurance, and balance. Staying with the variation that feels good to you. Bring your hands back to your chair. We're going to open up the back foot a little bit wider, so it's perpendicular to your front foot. Bend into your front knee. Your knees in line with your middle toe. Lift your back arm to shoulder height or a little bit lower for warrior 2. We're going to gaze over the chair. Option to keep your hand down or lift the arm. Breathe in, lift the torso. Exhale, drop the shoulders. Connect to your inner warriors. Hold it for a few mindful breaths. You can release your hand back down. If it's not comfortable for your neck, you can just keep your head in line with your spine. Release your arm. We're going to pivot our back foot, bending our knee forward in line with the chair. And we're going to step forward to our chair, coming back into a mountain as we prepare for warrior 3. There's a few options for warrior 3. It is a balance posture, so you can simply bring your weight to your right leg and just keep your foot lightly on the ground, keeping the hips level. You also have the option to lift your leg up. Another option you have is to place your hands to your seat, making sure it's steady, and lift the leg up behind you. Toes are pointing down, shoulders are relaxed. For warrior 3, we're going to hold the pose. Keep your standing leg slightly bent. Inhale, open the chest. Exhale, keep pressing through your back heel. When you're ready to come down, you can slowly release the foot back down to your yoga mat and walk your hands back up to mountain. Pause here in mountain for a few breaths. Continue to breathe. I'm just going to change sides so you can see me a little bit better. But you don't have to move if you don't want to. This way, when I open up, I'll be able to see all of you better and you'll be able to see me. So mountain pose, breathe in, breathe out. Take as much time as you need and you can join in when you're ready. Take your time to step your right foot back, left foot forward, bend into that front knee. You have the option to send your heel down to the floor or keep the toes up. Breathe in, breathe out in warrior one. Option to lift the arm up or both arms up if you're feeling steady. Lift the torso with every breath. Soften your shoulders. We're building strength, balance, and flexibility. When you're ready, bring both hands back down to the top of your chair, and we're going to open up our back foot perpendicular to our front, bend into your front knee, and slowly we'll lift our back arm up in line with our shoulder, a little lower. You can keep your hand on your chair and gaze over to the opposite side this time. Warrior two. If you feel steady, you can lift your arm, gaze over your fingertips. Inhale, pull belly to spine, and exhale, soften the shoulders. When you feel ready to come out of your pose, take your time, place your hand down. You can send your head back to center, relax your hand. We're going to pivot our back foot, taking our hands to our chair and step forward back into mountain. Next, we'll take warrior three. So we have a few options. Take the option that's best for you. We can just lift our foot slightly off the floor, bend into your standing leg. You can just touch your toes if you'd like to the floor for balance. Keep your knee in line with your middle toe. You also have the option to send your hands down to your chair, the seat of your chair, and lift your leg up. Toes are pointing down, warrior three. Inhale, open the chest. And exhale, press through that back foot. We're strengthening the back of our leg, our glutes. When you're ready to come out of the pose, slowly lower down, soften those legs, walk up the chair, coming back into mountain for a few breaths. You should feel like you're working, but you're not overworking yourself. We want to build energy with our practice, not lose energy. Breathe in through the nostrils and exhale through the nostrils in your mountain pose. Next, we're going to come into yogic squat. You can take this with the help of your chair or seated on your chair. For today, it's a standing class, so I'll do the standing variation. Bring your legs wide. You can keep the balance of your chair. Turn the toes out and only go down as far as it's comfortable for you and your joints. making sure that your knees stay in line with those middle toes. Lift the chest. You can keep your hand on your chair, pull belly to spine, send your hands to heart. Explore the pose. If you want to go lower, you can. Stay in the heels and send your forearms to the insides of your thighs. See how it feels on your body. Lift your heart. When you're ready to come up, press into your legs. You can hold on to your chair and come back to center. We're going to take a counter pose, which is wide-legged forward fold. We can use a chair if you'd like in front of us or blocks. I'll show you both options. Always keep your chair on your mat. I like that we have a little blanket here. If you don't have one, that's fine. But if you want to add one, you can for comfort. Let's make space in between the legs. Ground into the outer edges of the feet. Breathe in. Lengthen the spine and exhale to fold forward from the hips, walking all the way down to our forearms if that's available to us. We can stay like this with our hands, or come down to our forearms and relax the head completely. Relax the shoulders. Wide-legged forward fold. We're stretching the outside of the legs, releasing the back. We can even take this posture with a block underneath our hands, if that's better. You can walk your hands all the way down to the floor instead of using the chair. When you're ready to come out of the pose, take your time to just lift your gaze, press into your hands, and then slowly step the feet back together, walking up the chair. Lift with a nice long spine, back to standing.
As a physiotherapist for Arthritis Society Canada, I often remind my clients to always pace themselves whenever they're starting a new activity. So for this yoga session, I'm going to encourage you to make sure you listen to your body, respect what it's telling you, which means if you move slowly and stop at gentle tension, you're not going to get into painful situations. And when in doubt, pause, realign your posture and alignment, and make sure you're taking those nice deep breaths. If you require any other information, please don't hesitate to check out our arthritis.ca website with other tips, tricks, suggestions, and information about how you can manage your arthritis today.
Now we'll move into final relaxation. You have the option to sit on your chair. I'm going to come down to the yoga mat by using my chair, placing my support on the floor, and send my hands to my chair and step down onto my cover, walking to all fours, leaning to one side, down to the yoga mat. And I'll move into final relaxation, placing this cover under my head for support. We'll move our props away to relax completely. If you're sitting on your chair, relax your lower back completely in the chair. Bend your knees if you'd like, keeping your feet flat on the floor, or open up the legs, relax the feet. Palms facing up towards the sky. Final relaxation. You can close your eyes, soften the body. Take a few deep breaths in and out through the nostrils. Final relaxation, also known as Shavasana, is A very important part of yoga, it is a time to consciously relax and to absorb all of the wonderful benefits of your practice. So I'll leave you here in Shavasana as long as you'd like. Make sure to check in and notice how you feel at the end of your practice. Thank you for joining me for this standing yoga practice. From my heart to yours, namaste.
If you require any other information, please don't hesitate to check out our arthritis.ca website with other tips, tricks, suggestions, and information about how you can manage your arthritis today. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we really hope that you feel the benefits of this yoga practice. Please remember, if you do have any discomfort, make the time to re-lengthen, open, and stretch what's tight. Use your cold packs, use your warm packs, and always make sure your breathing is slow and controlled in all your movements today. Take care.
The following program was provided by a valued member of our local community. Rogers TV is proud to support local producers and share local voices, ideas, and opinions. For more information, please visit our website. Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Today we gather to remember the mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters who served and continue to serve our country. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and with gratitude we acknowledge the RCAF's contributions to national defense and global peacekeeping, and thank their veterans and families. We also honor the sacrifices made to protect the freedoms that we enjoy today. Let us uphold the values of courage and democracy they so bravely defended. On this Remembrance Day, lest we forget.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
Color party, by the left, quick, march!
weather permitting, we will have a flyover of one aircraft during the service. That's the Parade Marshal, Mr. Fern Tight there. Parade! Fire! Quiet! Hey!
Shoulder to shoulder dressing. Right, dress.
Please remain standing for the fellowship.
Parade. General salute. Present arms. Attention! Parade! Stand and eat! Parade yours, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Bob George, and together with Steve Glover, Public Relations Officer, we will be your Masters of Ceremony for today's parade. On behalf of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 147, we welcome our Silver Cross mother, Mrs. Beth Mackay, and her husband, Fred Mackay. Thank you for being here, folks. Members of Federal Parliament, Doug Shipley and Sarah Taylor, on behalf of John Brassard. Members of Provincial Parliament representing Doug Downey is Kristen Rowland, and representing Andrea Kanjan is Parade Marshal Fern Tyfair. Mayor Alex Nuttall from the City of Barrie, and Innisfil Councillor Kevin Isis. Representatives from 14 Wing, Major Luke, and Master Warrant Officer Hennessy, and representatives of the Grey and Simcoe Foresters and honorary colonels. A special welcome to Bill Snow, William Bill Snow, 102 years old. He's such a man. He's a World War II veteran, Korean veteran, as we have mentioned earlier. And retired General John Hayter, Korean veteran, and also to all of our veterans. Thank you all in attendance for joining us today in the remembrance of those who served our country so many years ago and to give the freedom that we have today. We are here to remember as well those whose lives were and are forever changed by the experience of war. Just a warning so that the children don't get scared, there will be a firing party during the ceremony which will fire blanks.
was 22 years old when he signed up to serve. With the date of birth of the 12th, he would not live long enough to see another birthday. Private Ruffett could read and write, as was evident by his neat penmanship and legible signature. Reading and writing was not a common skill at the time, which becomes clear when browsing enlistment forms of the day. Edwin listed his occupation as laborer and declared his faith with a simple COE, which many would have understood without question. Edwin declared himself to be a man with blue eyes and brown hair, standing 5 feet 6 inches tall. On the 20th of April, 1916, the 27th Battalion at a location named Dead Dog Farm. The relief was completed at 3:30 the next morning. For those of you that are military, that was a battalion relief of place. Orders were received in the afternoon and they had it done by 3 o'clock in the morning. That's pretty impressive. The position was supported by line telephone and machine guns, mortars, and a dressing station. By 4 p.m., the 20th Battalion was shelled by the enemy and suffered no damage or casualties. Edwin would have spent the week reinforcing the position and taking cover from incoming artillery in mild weather and was reported to be quiet. Between 1 to 3 p.m., the 20th Battalion was shelled by 5.9s and whiz-bangs. Several direct hits were made against the Canadian trenches. Edwin was one of 8 killed that day. Each year, Canadians of our wars. This year, I pause to remember Edwin George Ruffett, 405-708, who was laid to rest in Belgium in the Ridgewood Cemetery, grave IT-7. We'll remember them.
Thanks, sir. That was nice.
Attention! Color Sergeant, march on to Cenotaph colors. Parade! Stand at ease. Stand easy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a special song by Mr. Rick Ross.
Great uncle. These are some thoughts that he would have shared between himself and his 17-month-old daughter that he never met. The soldiers sat on the old fieldstone, looked far off to the west, took out the old tattered letter he held right next to his chest. His fingers bloodied and dirty traced the letters that made up his name. He thought of the person who wrote them. Would he ever hold her again? A tear rolls down his cheek as he reads the words on the page. Then he smiles as he thinks of the message he received when the boat did engage. To take him to do battle against the darkness of another man's heart. The thought of the daughter he never met, born after he did depart. He thinks, what's she like? Is she happy? What's she like? Does she look like me? What's she like? Oh, I can't wait to meet her. What's she like? Will her face I ever see? His heart's now filled with joy, and for a moment he's taken away to a place held deep in his memory. Oh God, I so long for that place. The place where my loved ones do gather, my kin in such blissful bliss. Another tear drops on the old page as he thinks of his mother's sweet kiss. Orders are given each time to gather our strength and our might, to engage in war's awful battle he'll never see tonight. Bullets pierce soul in his flesh, and he's close to his final breath. Puts his hand on the letter that's held right next to his chest. And he thinks of his baby daughter, friends, family, and his new wife. Breathes life's final breath that afternoon and heads off to the afterlife. Years later, his daughter peers down at the letter he held by his chest. Thinks of her dear father, the man she never met. Thinks to herself, how I love him. Wants to hold on to his hand. Cries in her heart, Dad, I love you. I'll see you up in glory land. She thinks, what's he like? Is he happy? What's he like? Do I look like him? What's he like? Oh, I can't wait to meet him. What's he like? It's in my heart till then. It's in my heart always. Until then.
Rick, that is beautiful. Thank you very much for all of that. Thank you also for singing our national anthem and God Save the King today. We appreciate the vocals for sure. I now call upon Bill Sargent, retired Lieutenant Colonel, to read Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae's 1915 poem, In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the skies, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunsets glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hearts we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Thank you, Bill. Sorry, Bill. That's all right. It's fine. That's good, thank you. Thank you. I now call upon Padre Ken to lead us in prayer.
Parade, attention! For those who wish to do so, remove your headdress. Stand at ease. Stand easy.
Let us pray. O Lord our God, we have gathered here this day to offer our prayers and petitions for those who have perished as a result of conflict and the strife of war. We pray for those who have given of themselves willingly, those who made the ultimate sacrifice. We pray for those who have been victimized, innocent casualties of hatred and terror. We pray for those who continue to place themselves in harm's way in order that peace and harmony might be achieved. Hear us, O Lord, as we make our appeal in their memory. Bless, O Lord our God, those who have fought and valiantly died, that we might enjoy liberty and freedom. May their sacrifice not be in vain. May your blessing, O Lord, be upon them on this Remembrance Day and all days. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Parade, attention! Replace headdress. Stand at ease. Stand easy.
On this day of remembrance, at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we are calling on all assembled here to pause and pay silent tribute to the service of the many Canadians who paid the supreme sacrifice for our country by observing 2 minutes of silence. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would stand, please, and remain standing for the last post, followed by 2 minutes silence, the lament, volley fire, and the reveille.
Chad!
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We'll now continue with the laying of the wreaths. Please be seated.
Pray, stand at ease. Stand easy. Anybody having business laying a wreath, fall out, including the escorts.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Cornell aircraft is flown by Larry Arnold. We would like to thank the Edenville Classic Foundation for the flyby. Thank you very much.
Shipped out, they numbered a dozen. Upon my return, we're 100 or so, from the coast and from the prairies. I bet they keep coming. Add one more name from Ontario.
We'll be starting now with the laying of the wreaths.
And carry me home.
We're laying the wreath for the Silver Cross Mother, Mrs. Elizabeth Mackay, mother of Kevin Mackay, 1st Battalion PPCLI, accompanied by her husband Fred and Parade Marshal Fern Tyfair.
There was never more. I serve with distinction, no visions of glory. I serve without question, of personal gain.
From the Governor of Canada, Mr. Doug Shipley, and representing MP John Broussard, Sarah Jane Taylor. From the Province of Ontario, representing MPP Doug Downey, Christian Rowland, and representing MPP Andrea Kanchan, Mr. Fern Tyfair. From the City of Barrie, Mayor Alex Nuttall, and from the town of Innisfil, Councillor Kevin Isis. In memory of Gordon Belshaw, World War II veteran, Colin and Ann Belshaw.
My vocation, I was called by my nation without hesitation. My answer I gave. Now I'm not wondering the things that I might have been. I know consolation to the forgotten brave. So carry.
Representing the Canadian Forces, Major Lunk and Master Warrant Officer Hennessy, and the Grey and Simcoe Foresters, Lieutenant Colonel Lacroix and RSM David Hood.
True patriot love, there was never more. Carry me home down the highway of heroes. People I love with their hands on low. And carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True patriot love, there was never more. There was never more. There was never more. There was never.
Representing the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 147, First Vice President Fern Tyfair and Second Vice President Tim Shaughnessy, and representing the Branch 147 Ladies Auxiliary, President Bonnie Whitnell. Representing the 441 Wing, Bill Sergeant Lieutenant Colonel retired, and Wally Capstick. Representing the Barrie Army Navy Air Force, President Buck Robinson and Mary Florence Bartley. And representing the Veteran Club of Barrie, President Eli Aucoin and past President Paul Pierre. Representing the Korea Veterans Association, General John Hayter. Representing the Canadian Airborne Forces Association, John Iverson and David Boyd. And representing the Canadian Peacekeeping Association, President Fern Taillefer and Vice President Fern Bajoron. Representing the Hong Kong Veterans Association in memory of Leo Berard, great-grandson Nathan Lauder and Ellen Lauder. Representing the Canadian Naval Memorial, Dave Aspen and Petty Officer Second Class Kristen Leeson. And representing the Commissionaires, Great Lakes, James Brooks and Diane Keene. Representing the Royal Canadian Sea Cadets, Lieutenant Robert Leduc and Chief Petty Officer Sasha Williams. Representing the Navy League Cadet Corps Chambly, Lieutenant John Rorda and Petty Officer Second Class Abigail Avery. Representing the Navy League of Canada, Diane Chislett and Petty Officer Asher Willoughby, Royal MC Officer Cadet Willoughby. Representing the Royal Canadian Army Cadets, Captain Ellen Willoughby, the 102nd Barrie Silver Fox Air Cadet Squadron, Lieutenant Kelly Erb and Warrant Officer Second Class Gerard Grogan, and the National Association of Federal Retirees, Ellen Stalls. In loving memory of Frank Tascona, Military Medal Queen's Own Rifles, Wayne Tascona. In memory of Doug Shaughnessy, Tim Shaughnessy, Bryn Cumming, and great-grandson Levi Cumming. And in memory of Al Zaba, Heather Zaba, and great-grandson Bronson. In loving memory of Gordon Hobbs, Wayne Hobbs. In loving memory of Harry Hobbs, Wayne Hobbs. and Jack Skipper Jordan, 1917 to 2002, and Edith Jordan, 1920 to 2017, Leslie Landry. In memory of Honorary Colonel Bob Middlemiss, 441 Chair Bill Sargent, and Lila Toomey. In memory of Honorary Colonel Rob Warman, Annalise Tooney. And in memory of the Jewish veterans of Barrie, Jeff Wellman. Representing the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Inspector Freeman Sweezy, the Ontario Provincial Police, Sergeant Mandeep Bomber from the Nottawasaga OPP Detachment, and from the Barrie City Police, Chief Rich Johnston. From the Barrie Fire and Emergency Service, Chief Kevin White. From the Barrie Professional Firefighter Association, Dan Spate. And representing St. John Ambulance, Lloyd Payette and Cassandra LaBelle. Representing the Knights of Columbus Barrie Council, 1626, L. McLeod. The Knights of Columbus J.J. Murphy Assembly, 2020, Lieutenant Colonel retired Duguay and Wayne Gibson. And the Barrie Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Paul Markle. Representing the Kiwanis Club of Barrie, Doug McDermott, the Lions Club of Barrie, Brian McClellan, and the Salvation Army, Nathan Sykes and Kelly Kane. Representing the Corinthian Masonic Lodge 96, Worshipful Master Matt Pindera and Dale Hutchinson. The Loyal Orange Lodge Ellendale, County Master Gary Chandler and Lou Ellen. And the Polish Alliance of Canada, Branch 43, Chris Bialo. representing the ZHR Polish Scouts of Canada, Barrie Chapter, Derek Wodola, the Ukrainian community in Barrie, Marnia Desvarfornia and daughter Inara, both refugees, and from the Royal Victoria Regional Health Center, Joshua Valor. Representing Superior Home Health Care, Raylene Oakley and Jeff Crosby. Scouts Canada, Greg Peach. And on behalf of the Mackay family, Kathy Millette. St. Mary's Women Catholic League, the Adams Funeral Home and Cremation Services, Heather Earl, the Marshall Driver Cremation Services, Melody Somerville. Representing the Consul Scalar, Catholique Mona Avenue, Mapella, Amber Jen Vaughan. In memory of Cyril Vieira, the Vieira family. And representing the Knowles Wolseley real estate team, Julie Wolsey, and the Business and Professional Women of Barrie, Deb James, President.
Ladies and gentlemen, I meant to mention at the outset, you'll see a boot at the base of the cenotaph. That is one of some 30,000 boots that were placed at Vimy Ridge for the centennial ceremony in 2017. My grandson was there and retrieved it legally and brought it back for me as a gift, and I truly appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the singing of God Save the King.
Pray! Attention!
God save our gracious King, long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the departure of Lieutenant Colonel Lacroix.
Thank you for being here today, by the way. General salute! Present arms! Attention! Thank you, sir.
Colonel Lacroix will now be positioning himself at the bottom of the stairs behind the cenotaph where the with veterans to take the salute. When the parade marches off, please leave the route clear for them to return to their form-up location. And this concludes the ceremony, ladies and gentlemen. All spectators are invited to attend the Legion, also the Army Navy Air Force Club, and the Armories for a reception after the parade.
Color Sergeant, march off the cenotaph colors.
Special thanks to the piper and the bugler for today's performance.
Parade will march past in column of route. Move to the right in column of route. Right turn. Parade! By the left! Square! March!
It's a very heartwarming feeling.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. On today's show, do you feel like you're always chasing more? Is the pressure to keep up with those around you impacting your money mindfulness? Do you suffer from money dysmorphia, or are you wondering what that is? Well, my guest today is here to explain it. He's also going to share advice on how you can change your money mindset so you can focus on the awesome stuff and what is most important to you. He's a sought-after speaker, finance educator, and author of the best-selling book, The Golden Quest: Your Journey to a Rich Life. He shared his innovative approach to financial literacy in interviews with TEDx, NBC, Fox News, and Forbes. And he's here now today on Money Matters. David Delisle, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Shannon. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Before we really get into it, can you share a little bit about your background and how you got started in financial education?
Yeah, it's been a long journey because I was one of those weird little kids that was a money nerd. When I was 10, I remember reading finance books and getting excited about this kind of stuff. For the Canadians, they'll remember maybe David Chilton of The Wealthy Barber. I remember he did a book tour and I was even, attended his book tour. So I've always been a bit of a money nerd, but that wasn't really the field I went into. I went into marketing and other things, even though I started investing at a very early age. But I've got two boys that are now 12 and 15. And a few years ago, I just want to pass on knowledge to them. And I realized looking back, what was really important was different than what's really being taught. And I wish I knew things a little bit differently. So that led me to this whole financial literacy, writing a graphic novel for kids, and really trying to change the way we talk about money.
Well, it's an interesting background that you have when you say you started very young. Not a lot of people would say that. So I like that you say you call yourself a money nerd. So that's good. Well, I want to get into right off the bat, what is money dysmorphia?
Yeah, so it sounds like a big word, but all it is when your perception of your finances doesn't match reality. That's all it is. So it's common when you see people where they might feel extremely poor and they don't have enough and they're scared everyone else has more than them, when actually that's not the reality. So it's those types of things. But the reason it's really important right now is we all had a little bit of money dysmorphia in the past, but we're noticing now with Gen Z, over half of Gen Z suffers from money dysmorphia, and it's getting worse with the generations afterwards. So it's becoming one of these things that's becoming more and more important.
What are some of the sort of common behaviors when it comes to money dysmorphia?
Yeah, so it's interesting because you'll see both ends of the spectrum. So we know those people who are just hoarders and they just always have this fear around money. It doesn't matter how much they have. Like I mentioned, they just feel scared, like they don't have enough. And then you have people on the other end of the spectrum that have this idea of, you know what, I'll never have enough money. All these other people have more. You only live once. I'm just going to spend it all and not plan for their future. But in either case, really what's happening is they're not planning very well for the future. And their whole views and perception of what they have, what they need, and what money is distorted.
So I meet most commonly with the people that are on the spectrum of, I feel like I don't have enough money. And when I have those conversations with people, I often start with, well, can you tell me what your income is? Well, sometimes they can, often they can't. They have a general idea of what the income might be, but it's very vague. And then same thing on the expenses side. Can you tell me how much you spend on this or over here? Some expenses, people often know exactly what their car payment is, but they don't know how much they spend on groceries for the month. And so those are the types of people that I sort of meet with on a regular basis. And, we're influenced by a lot of external sources. It's like you mentioned, it's looking at the people around us and comparing ourselves. But, with the added influence of social media, it seems to have just exploded. And like you say, with Gen Z, it's becoming more and more that way as the generations pass by. What is your advice on handling those external influences?
So yeah, those external influences are so scary because that's keeping up with the Joneses. But for us, the Joneses were like our neighbors, our friends, our family. Now it's everybody in the world. So that's a big change. And so the biggest thing, and this is why I'm so passionate about this, it's easy. We just start talking to our kids about money. So if you think about our children, we want to teach them the value of money, but we never talk about money or how much things cost, they'll never understand. So all of the information they're learning about financial literacy is coming from these external sources like social media. But I tell parents, like, when you go to a grocery store, let your kids know how much things cost when you buy, like, fill up that basket, when you go to McDonald's, when you fill up your car with gas, all these simple things. And then they'll start to, at the very least, get that concept of the value of money. And that can happen at a really young age.
And so it seems that you're saying that our money dysmorphia is really tied to our financial knowledge. So the more we know, perhaps the more we might be able to manage that disconnect.
For sure. And right now, like, the narrative, and it's not just social media, it's almost everybody, it's more is better. More means you're smarter, more means you're happier, more means you're more successful. And that's what we see. We see people on beaches and yachts and happy and friends and laughter and all this stuff around them. And we're like, why? That's not me. Why can't I have that? I need more. And that's just not true. I mean, more, we've seen time and time again, if more made everyone better and happier and all these things, then our billionaires would be the happiest people we know. But that's not the case. So more isn't more, but that's what we're being sold. And that's what's really creating this dysmorphia.
Well, and you mentioned about having those discussions with our kids. And so that leads us really nicely into just talking about your book, which is now a bestseller. It's called The Golden Quest, Your Journey to a Rich Life. And it's a graphic novel about a young boy who embarks on a hero's journey with his dog to discover the golden rules of money. So can you talk a little bit about the inspiration behind the book?
Yeah, so I wanted to write something for my kids, but again, it's my kids. So it was going to be something that was going to be extremely boring and they just have to read it anyway. And I'm used to being a money nerd and people just ignoring everything I say. And you see the eyes roll and look off in the distance as soon as you start talking about money. And then I realized kids, what they're reading these days is they're reading graphic novels. That's what they're interested in. And it shocked me that this is still the only graphic novel that teaches financial literacy, but it just makes it so much sense to just make it a fun adventure. And the best praise I get is from parents where their kids read it and don't even realize that they were learning anything or that it was about money or that they're being taught. It's this Trojan horse to really teach these values to kids without them realizing.
I completely agree with you about the format of the graphic novel because my daughter is only 6 and those are the formats that she gravitates towards. So I like that choice of format. Can you tell us a little bit about the money lessons that are learned in the book?
Yeah, so a lot of it, there's only really 4 key lessons in the book. But the first one, which I find is the most important, and this leads into what we're talking about with money dysmorphia, is really understanding what's important to you. So the lessons only buy the awesome stuff. And it's one of those things where when you first hear it, and the kid in the book as well, it's like, everything I have is awesome. Come on, David, give me a better lesson here. But this comes back to really understanding what's important to you. And unfortunately, a lot of times we realize that in tragedy, when something bad happens, what's really important. This is trying to get you to just focus on that on a regular basis and ask that question, is this my awesome stuff? Does this bring me joy? And I like to say, like, the more you focus on what brings you joy, the more you'll realize what doesn't. And we're spending time and money on things that don't actually bring us joy.
It's so true. It's hard to sometimes determine what those things are, like you mentioned, and we're going to sort of touch on that in the second portion of the show. So there's lots of valuable lessons to learn from your book, and not only for kids, I think, but also for the parents who might be presenting it to their kids. And of course, we're heading into November, which is Financial Literacy Month. And so it's something that parents watching may want to consider picking up as a teaching tool. And of course, the theme for this year's Financial Literacy Month is money on your mind, talk about it. Now, sometimes that's easier said than done, I think. How do you feel about this?
This is like the point of the book to me isn't to give it to your kids, it's to sit down and read it with them and have these conversations. The whole thing is meant to inspire conversations. And that's when I talked about trying to teach money a different way. Right now, I find a lot of times people are being told what to do, and it's a very harsh, like there's a lot of shame and judgment in it. For me, it should be discussion and curiosity and conversation, and just start talking to your kids. And all of these are great opportunities. I mean, I talk to my kids all the time and give them a bit more say in how we spend money, what choices we make, what our priorities are, what our values are.
It used to be that it was a very taboo subject, talking about money within the home. Do you think that has shifted a little bit over the last few decades?
No, unfortunately, that's the thing, is it's still so taboo. I mean, we know more about, people's sex lives than their finances. If you think about your friends, like you don't know what they earn, you don't know the debt they have, you don't know what they, spend or how much they've saved. Like we just don't talk about it. And a main reason is because there's so much shame and judgment tied into money that we just don't touch those conversations. But I think the best way to overcome that shame and judgment and, the literacy and knowledge is by talking about it. So I really want to see that shift, but it's still fairly taboo.
It's interesting because, like I mentioned, I meet with a lot of people on a daily basis, and I agree with you that discussion about shame, especially if someone feels that they have mismanaged their finances in some way, I think that's a tough roadblock for a lot of people. A lot of people, though, that I see often, yes, there can be a little bit of that money dysmorphia issue where we don't really know, we have that disconnect with what's happening with our own income and expenses. But I think also a lot of circumstances change for people just unexpectedly. And so if you're dealing with a lot of debt, and that sort of heavy burden, a lot of that can sort of be as a result, or maybe a combination of a little bit of mismanagement of the funds, but also then something triggers, like, there's some kind of event, a marital breakdown, something like that. And I think you're right. There's a lot of shame that comes along with those types of experience, which makes it difficult to talk about, I think.
For sure. And that's what's so important about this, is if you start talking about it, you're aware of the different choices you actually have. And that shame and poor choices usually comes from a lack of awareness, not because you're a bad person.
Yeah. Well, I know your ultimate goal is really to change the money mindset and make it easier to talk about money. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more when Money Matters returns after the break.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university. So they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
Welcome back to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. My guest today is David Delisle sought-after speaker, finance educator, and best-selling author of The Golden Quest, Your Journey to a Rich Life. And as we talked about in the first half of the show, David, your book really is a tool for teaching financial literacy. And with Financial Literacy Month upon us, it's certainly top of mind. And you also, though, provide a lot of finance-themed workshops. Your focus is to change the money mindset, make it easier to talk about money. And I want to draw on your knowledge and have you share some of your mindful money lessons to our viewers and how we can start to have those conversations, especially with our children. So what is your advice about starting those conversations with our kids?
Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit different at different ages. And so, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, just talking about the value of money, so important when kids are really young and just getting them just aware of what things might cost. But one of my favorite lessons, and this is a lesson for adults as well, is that first golden rule in the book, is this my awesome stuff? Asking that question. So when you're looking at purchasing something, and what you'll start noticing is that awesome stuff, like what brings you joy, it can be experiences as well. So I sort of like to walk people through a bit of a journey. So thinking about their favorite memory, thinking about the time they last laughed with their friends, all of these things. And you'll see it almost becomes a game because that awesome stuff becomes a benchmark. Like that's the thing that brings you the most joy. And it's interesting. I have so many conversations with people where they tell me this is their awesome stuff, and over time realize it wasn't. It's something else is really important. And this is how we really sort of break that attachment to money that we have, where we're chasing something that's never actually going to make us happy.
Do you have a bit of a strategy, depending, like you mentioned, it's different on age levels? Maybe starting with our youngest children, do you have a strategy to start the conversation with them?
Yeah, so this is where you could really, like as a parent, get involved with the conversation. So you could just start asking them, like, what is your awesome stuff? And then start telling them what your awesome stuff is. That's really important, is let them know what's important to you, so everyone can start to see it and then see how it shifts and changes. And it does sound like it's tricky. And I get this from kids all the time. Like, I don't know what my awesome stuff is. But the thing is, most of us really do know. Like if we think of, as parents, our kids, we know what their favorite, toy or stuffy or thing is, or blanket that they need to have. And if we lost that thing, we know there's no way to replace it. And there'd be a massive crisis. We know what those things are. It's not all the stuff hidden under the bed or in the closet. And again, that's on the stuff side of things. But kids will start to notice too, like, no, you know what I really want to do? I just want to go for a bike ride, or I want to go to the beach, or I love to play basketball. And as you start throwing these things their way, they'll start realizing that's when I have the most fun. That's what I enjoy. And it's not chasing all these other things.
And when I think about those different age groups between our young children into the teenage years and then into young adult, I obviously, your awesome stuff is going to change as you progress through those years. So I'm thinking the younger children, it's going to be stuff. It's going to be something physical that they can see. And perhaps as we get older, it becomes more of those experience types of things, which gives us that positive feeling. Is that sort of a trend that you see?
For sure. But what's shocking is that kids make that transition quicker than you think they would, because they're starting to realize it. So as an example, this past holiday season, Christmas, my boys, typically we just filled the tree full of presents, but they're not necessarily presents they love. They're just presents they want. And so this time, I again had the conversation. I asked them, like, we could do that, or instead, would you like to host your own Christmas party for you and all your friends, like individual Christmas parties? And that's something they got super excited about, because they realized, like, that's what they wanted to do. Like that's a fun holiday to them. Is we'd go to the store and get all the candy and all the food and the decorations and invite all their friends, and they can just have this big Christmas party, as opposed to a bunch of things that they didn't really want. And it's really neat to see, because with my boys, that's a big thing, is they're very different in how they spend. One's a spender, one's a saver. They're very different in how they think about money, but both of them, like, they're not trying to chase what their friends have or feeling that envy or keeping up with the Joneses, because they know what's really important to them. And usually it's connection, it's friends, it's family.
David, in one of your other workshops, you talk about the importance of the money conversation as an entire family. So can you talk about why you feel that that's important?
Yeah, well, kids don't really understand what's going on. So like a common thing, we'd see them in the, we're in the grocery store and a kid starts having a tantrum, wants like a candy or an ice cream. And our response might be, well, we can't afford that. But we really can afford it. It was an ice cream. Most families can afford the ice cream. It's that we choose not to buy it because that's maybe not what we value or we think it's overpriced. There's all these other reasons. But little kids don't necessarily know that. So then they all of a sudden grow up with this fear that, low self-worth, or my family's poor, or they're scared that you're going to lose the house because there's no money. So just involving the kids a bit more in the dialogue, like your own internal dialogue. You know what? I don't want to go to this restaurant because it's really expensive. And instead, I'd rather use the money to do this. Or we're saving up to send your mom to school. So that's become our priority, or this trip we're doing. And kids can get behind it, especially if they're like, well, I don't want to do that. I'd rather do this other thing. Even those things, you can start involving them, because a lot of times as parents, we impose what we think they'd like an expensive trip to Disneyland. They don't realize how expensive that trip actually is and what they could do instead. And so they're not going to be as appreciative because they have no concept of the actual cost of that. So involving them gets them to actually appreciate things a bit more and feel like they have some autonomy.
Are there certain topics that families can talk about, or should we just sort of think about just being specific and direct in our conversations?
For me, I'm all about ease. Like I'm a single parent, so I want to make parenting as easy as possible. So I'm not sitting down with my kids or trying to game the system or come up with big topics. I'm just noticing as it comes up and there's opportunities, just weaving it into the conversation. So if there's, a great example would be like summer holidays, and somebody was asking about how to budget because it's so expensive. They have all these summer camps, all these sports, all these things they want to do. Again, just having that conversation with the kids, instead of saying, this is what we're doing, start talking to them. Hey, we can only pick one camp, or this is, we could go with all our friends and, go camping for a week, or we can, spend a day at this theme park, and just easily just bringing them into the conversation, seeing what they think. And then you can guide them. You can let them know what you think and why. But I'm really trying to take judgment out of the conversation around money. And this is how we start to do that. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just letting people know what choices they actually have. And once kids realize what choices they have, they can start making better choices.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, one of your other workshops is all about investing, which I think can be a bit of an intimidating discussion that a lot of people have. Why do you think it's a difficult thing for people to grasp?
I mean, it comes back to the shame. So people don't ask questions and they feel like they should know everything to do with investing. But that's just not the case. I mean, that's not the case with our doctors and our dentists and our car mechanics. Like, we know there's people that know more than us. Investing is one of those things where we just have this fear and shame around. And that's why when I talk about it, I try to just show how simple it actually can be. And you can find people to help you with the difficult stuff. Like, it's your habits and your mindset. That's going to have the biggest impact on your wealth, not the specifics, because there's people who can help you with that. And for long-term investments, there's ways to actually, create boring but amazing investments. And that's the thing, is we all want something that's, flashy and fun and exciting. Those aren't good long-term investments.
So while I was sort of preparing for the interview today, I watched some of your other interviews online, and you've been talking about the awesome stuff. And you make this comment that by discovering what is truly your awesome stuff, you will experience a new way to think and feel about money, because it will be focused on what is most important to you. So can you walk us through how can we determine what our awesome stuff is?
Yeah, so it's like I said, it's a game and constantly just asking that question. But where it gets exciting, so as an example, I remember being in an interview and the host told me that his awesome stuff was this soundboard that he wanted to buy, and he's super excited about it. But then in the conversation, because I realized when he talked about it, he wasn't that excited. He was just like, this is what he wanted, and he did want it. But he got so much more passionate when he talked about his family. So I started asking about his kids, and he had 2 daughters, and they just gone on a trip recently. It was the first time they flew on a plane, and you could just see him getting more and more excited as he talked about this. And the reason this sticks out so much for me is because in the midst of that conversation, you can almost see that light bulb, like in a cartoon above his head, where he realized, oh, this is actually my awesome stuff. It's my daughters. It's traveling with my daughters. It's spending time with my daughters. It's not the soundboard. And the reason this is so important is because everything we've been taught right now is around sacrifice. So a good person's going to sacrifice, not buy the soundboard, save up, and eventually they'll buy it. But it's all this like delayed gratification and compromise. Whereas when you really understand what's important to you, like for him in this case, the soundboard no longer has the same value as spending time with his daughters. So it's not a sacrifice. It's something that's just not as important, and it loses a lot of its energy.
Well, you've certainly been creating a movement, and the awesome stuff movement seems to be catching on. Can you tell us a little bit about this, what this movement is, and about a challenge you might have for people?
Yeah, so it's really getting you to become more aware. So I have this 7-day awesome stuff challenge, which for 7 days, you just simply ask before you buy something, is this my awesome stuff? And feel into it, feel into that feeling and see how it makes you feel. Like that's like you're asking about how you figure out what is your awesome stuff. How does it make you feel? How excited are you about this? And it doesn't matter what the answer is. So ask the question, pause for a second, ask the question. If it's your awesome stuff, buy it. If it isn't, don't. And just do that for 7 days. And you'll notice all of a sudden the things that are important to you, they will start to shift and change. And especially get 2 or 3 friends and family members to join you in the challenge. And that's how we start spreading this and really changing the way we think and feel about money. It sounds simple, and it is, but it's a journey that it'll take time. And it's one of those things where it's just, you'll constantly grow.
Yes, and I think if you're asking yourself that question really with anything that you're spending money on, and so my personal struggle is, I like going out for lunch. I don't like packing my own lunch. I don't like making it. I despise it. But you know, if I ask myself, if I'm going through the drive-through, is this my awesome stuff? I might be able to change my mind. You know what I mean? And maybe break that habit and put a little bit more money back in my pocket. So, David, I really appreciate everything that you've talked about today and all of your great advice. If anyone wants to connect with you, how can they do that?
The best place to find me, again, everything's based around the awesome stuff. So theawesomestuff.com, you'll be able to find me. On Instagram, I'm at the awesome stuff. You can find the book at your local bookstores or Amazon. It's called The Golden Quest. And really reach out. I mean, I'm going in and speaking at schools. I love answering questions. So if anyone comes across any of my contact information, let me know and reach out.
Well, thank you again for being here. And I really appreciate all of our viewers for watching. Until next time, I'm Shannon Jackson.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.